boxing. Francis Ngannou has not been seen since his loss to Anthony Joshua earlier this month, which, not a long time. But,
man, I forgot that happened earlier this month.
yeah, really? It only happened 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, man. Got just annihilated. And afterward, we were kind of questioning what was going to be next. I mean, we heard he said he wants one more boxing match. Guys like Chisora have talked shit about him, called him out in the past. He's a link to Wilder. Obviously, who's now fighting Zhang. We weren't really sure. And he said he wants one more boxing match, but that boxing match will not be next. Instead, he will be facing Renan Ferreira in the PFL Smart Cage on anywhere. I mean, Don Davis did not announce a date. He announced this fight was going to be going down the summer, anywhere between July and September in Saudi Arabia. Not only that, that fight card, which will be pay-per-view, will also have Larissa Pacheco taking on Chris Cyborg in the co-main event. And they're also going to have Cedric Doumbé fighting on that one as well.
To be determined if he's fighting Baki again or not.
Which, they got to run that fight back, I think, in my opinion. But, we'll see what happens. What do you make of this news, man? Big friend coming back here. Is this the right move, fighting in the PFL?
I mean, I don't know what the right move was, to be honest. I don't know if there was a correct path. Some people said that, come back to MMA, get that one back. But it's been a while since he's competed in MMA. Who knows how he's going to look? He's taking on a guy with power, who's tall, big, has capabilities on the ground. Look, I mean, if there was a Francis who had been consistently fighting in MMA, I wouldn't even be worried. Wouldn't even bat an eye. But this Francis is coming off a knockout, first career knockout, and we've seen what happened with Conor, when he had been removed and focusing on boxing, how that affected him in the cage. Is that going to affect Francis or is it not? And, it's heavyweight. There's other factors, Credit for him for making a choice, because he had to make one, right? He has, he knows he has obligations, and obviously making this card happen too. And I think the PFL is doing some decent stuff.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a slow move. And look, I mean, I didn't really bring it up, but the antitrust trial, that's over, bro. If the PFL thought they had a shot of competing and maybe get some big time fighters, that's done. You're gonna have to roll with your current roster. Contracts aren't getting changed. Anything.
Well,
like that.
Not even just that, but hopefully, at time, getting to fighters at the right times, or fighters, agents reaching out to the PFL when contracts are gonna end. It's just gonna be hard because
they just have such a tight. UFC has such a tight grip on MMA and because of their contracts and everything. Because most of those.
The only way it'll happen is if they are able to capture two major stars from the UFC.
Yeah, and I don't even know who that would be. I don't even know. I mean, maybe. I mean, Conor has 2 more fights on his.
But granted, at the same time, you want the guys to be young enough where they're around for not a while, but at least a decent bit. Yeah. If somehow you could get a guy I don't know. Let's just say a Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
And then, maybe not a Sonya. I think.
You would need a star that's big and also somewhat young. For example, I just brought up Conor. Conor has 2 more fights on his deal. You talked about free agency recently. Don Davis is like, hey, if you're a big time fighter, included Conor in the conversation. He's like, hey, if you're a big time fighter, we got the money, we have the capital, we can do whatever. And it's true that they got paid $150 million from Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia's bankrolling those fight cards specifically. So they have a huge influx of cash, so they have the money. It's just getting some of those guys, and they got Jake Paul, and they got Ngannou, and they got Chris Cyborg, and they've got a lot of more fighters. It's just
they definitely attacked it in a way where they're made some growth, but it's the same time it's how do you continue steady growth?
Exactly.
But at the same time, they got to build their own stars. They got to build their own people as well and make them relevant in some capacity, because you can't just pray to God you're gonna have guys come from the UFC who have a relevant following, who are relevant to the UFC, come to your promotion, and at the same time, you also need those guys to kind of find success, but at the same time, if they find success, their current roster also looks bad because people are already looking down upon guys outside of the UFC.
Yeah, exactly. And they've gotten some guys recently in the last year. They've gotten Derek Brunson, for example. They've gotten guys who are ranked who left the UFC, but they're not going to be a big
Thiago Santos, Joel Romero.
Yeah, they've picked.
And granted, those guys, some of those guys came from Bellator.
Yeah. But it's just a matter of being able to compete on a regular basis. Because, for example, it's a big fight card. I bet the card can do pretty good. I'd be willing to bet that. I mean, Ngannou coming off the big boxing matches, granted, would have been better if he beat Joshua, obviously.
I mean, it's going to be pay-per-view, Josh. I mean, what do you call a success with them? Over 100K?
I would say this would be a success if it cracks 150 or above. I think 100's the break, from my understanding, and I'm fucking stupid. But from what I've heard, 100,000 is the break even. You need to hit 100,000 to even make any sort of money. So I think they're gonna do that. I mean, I'd be.
And even then, that
surprised.
might be profit just to pay off stuff. I'm assuming, not necessarily the profit for the company itself.
I mean, my prediction, right? I mean, it depends on how they build it too, but I think they'll probably get it like. That's my prediction, probably like 150, 175, which isn't terrible.
I
For
mean,
a
to shoot
PFL.
low, I'm guessing 85.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bellator, that Bellator, the one we watched in the movie theater, Bellator NYC, that one I want to say did like 150, and that was like, you know, Fedor, Chael Sonnen, and Vanderlei, the debut of Aaron Pico, all that stuff, way back in the day. We never learned what their PFL's previous pay-per-view cards have done.
There's been rumors, like I think that one first paper they did, it was like
100 maybe.
No, it was significantly less.
Really?
Maybe like 23, 12 or 14. I can't remember. That first one they did with the Night of Champions. You remember that?
Yeah, and they had which Kayla Harrison and all that stuff. And by the way, just the dumbest decision of all time. I remember we talked about this all the time. It's like, dude, how are you gonna show for like 3 or 4 straight years your championship fights and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna lock it behind a paywall this year?
And if you do it, you got to do it at a pretty reasonable price. And if I remember right, they did like 59. It was like the old pay-per-view price. But see, that work. I mean, if that was the UFC, you know how many more pay-per-view guys they get? Probably get a decent amount. But you're the PFL, man. I mean, like, I feel like they should have gone with like 29 or 39, man. That would have been a lot more feasible to maybe convince people to buy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't find the exact. I can't find any.
I think I saw like a rumor number a while back on Twitter. I mean, we could looking for our sake of our own
and for the record,
conversation.
yeah, and I saw, by the way, Ngannou, Joshua apparently did fucking horrendous on pay-per-view. Like in the US, it got like 19,000 buys.
But didn't like Fury and Ngannou also do pretty rough?
So I believe Fury and Ngannou, like there were some people who were like, that one's like a little bit more unknown because I want to say that like it got like 100,000 to the US and like 200,000 or 300,000 in the UK, so it kind of like evens out. You know what I mean? And but that one was at least going down on a fucking Saturday and stuff like that. It was going down like Friday evening. It's like it was crazy call to go ahead and make. So I don't even think most people knew the fight was happening on a Friday. So
no, I can tell you that for a fact.
You know. But anyways, man, yeah, I'm excited for this. Hopefully PFL can build this card out well. I got high expectations, man. I would love to see it.